The Covanta Fairfax Incinerator is a municipal waste burning site located on I-95 in Lorton, Virginia, that began commercial operation in June of 1990. As Covanta's largest facility and the country's fourth largest facility, the incinerator processes more than 3,000 tons of municipal solid waste per day from a population of more than 900,000 in Washington, D.C. and the suburbs of Fairfax County, Virginia. The facility produces energy by feeding waste into boilers which create steam, and that steam can be condensed to create electricity. Over 80 megawatts of the energy the facility produces are sold to Dominion Virginia Power Company to provide power to over 80,000 homes.
Air pollutants produced by the burning of this waste include toxic metals such as lead, mercury, arsenic, and cadmium, as well as dioxins and furans, the most toxic chemicals known to science. All of this ends up in the air, water, and soil, leading to contamination of food supplies and health impairments to residents near and far.
In fact, hydrogen chloride emissions from waste-to-energy facilities are generally 5 times higher than those emissions from coal-fired power plants. Dioxin furans are considerably higher as well, and emissions of cadmium, lead, and mercury are often on the same scale as those of coal-fired plants. Researchers have found a significant increase in rates of lung and larynx cancer, lymphoma, asthma, and congenital malformations in populations residing nearby incinerators.
Although only a few residents of this area are voicing concerns, it may take time to see the effects of the incinerator in these fairly new neighborhoods. There are so many other operations going on in Lorton, such as landfills, transfer stations, and truck traffic, that it could be difficult to pinpoint a single perpetrator of any health impairments that may exist or arise.
If this facility is not here, that 340,000 tons per year would go to a landfill. We absolutely believe it's much better environmentally to do this rather than put it in a landfill.
But landfills can get rid of all that garbage cheaper than burning. $7 per ton cheaper, roughly $2 million cheaper overall.
Proponents of the incinerator, such as former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, define incineration as a renewable energy source and have advocated that the facility minimizes the volume of waste in landfills by 90%.
Comprehensive approach, the traditional sources like coal, natural gas, nuclear, but also really expand the alternatives, whether it's offshore production or wind and solar biomass, and now trash to energy, which is amazingly efficient in terms of its production costs. The limitations on the carbon footprint are things that we should look at expanding.
According to Alternative Energy News, through the incineration process, there are no safe ways of avoiding the production of toxins or destroying them once they are made, and at best they can be trapped at extreme costs in sophisticated filters or in the ash. The ultimate release of these toxins is unavoidable, and inevitably, when they are disposed of, become hazardous waste themselves. A major concern with burning this waste is the production and disposal of this resulting ash. There are 2 different types of ash produced from the incineration process: bottom ash, which is mixed with slag, and fly ash, which comes from the stacks and is more hazardous. The combustion of plastics, metals, and rubbers from our trash give rise to these highly toxic pollutants.
My name is Mike Ewall. I'm the founder and director of a group called Energy Justice Network. The way that they handle the ash and then test the ash is designed to keep it from being regulated as hazardous waste. Because if they had to regulate it as hazardous waste, they would be out of business overnight because they couldn't afford to dispose of it as hazardous waste.
Environmental and social activists, such as Mike Ewall, have been advocating for the closure of the Covanta incinerator. They believe that this is not a sustainable or reasonable enterprise, and that this incinerator is detrimental to the health of the community and to efforts towards a clean energy future.
Now, one of the controversies that we found when we looked at the DEQ files on the Lorton incinerator is that they're not testing the ash as frequently as the state says they should, and so they've had a back and forth battle where the company refuses to test them more often. The state says, oh, we're going to fine you if you don't test them more often. But still, testing more often is like quarterly instead of once a year, and that's basically what the argument is. There's no way to run an incinerator properly. It's inherently too polluting, too expensive. is to everything and the wrong thing.
Instead of choosing to manage our waste in what is possibly the most polluting and costly manner, waste management plans should focus efforts on reducing waste, not feeding incinerators. A real solution to our waste management problems is to implement a zero waste plan that diverts our unwanted goods and disposables away from landfills and incinerators, and instead encourages conscious consumption, reduced production, repurposing, reusing, recycling, and composting to a fuller extent.
Fairfax County's waste agreement with the Covanta Fairfax incinerator will be up for renewal in 2016. If your government officials were to ask you if this is a strategy towards a more sustainable future, what would you say?